They say a man is not destroyed by his enemies. He is destroyed by those he tolerates too long. And if you pause here, really pause, you'll realize the weight of that truth. Because enemies are easy to identify. They declare themselves. They oppose you openly. They push against you in ways that are visible. But the ones you tolerate, the ones who smile, who pretend, who claim to care, those are the ones who corrode you slowly, invisibly, until you no longer recognize the person you once were. You see, life is not simply about goals, achievements, or even resilience. Life is also about guarding your environment. And that environment is made up of people, not walls, not furniture, not places, people. The energy you consume daily is not just food and drink. It is words, attitudes, and emotions. And so many of us, unknowingly, consume poison every single day, simply because we refuse to recognize who is feeding it to us. Toxic people don't always come into your life waving red flags. They don't come screaming, "Beware, I am here to sabotage your peace." They enter with small smiles, casual conversations, and harmless gestures. They disguise themselves as friends, lovers, even family. But beneath the surface, something else is happening. They plant seeds of doubt in your mind. They dim your light with subtle comments. They pull your focus away from growth and redirect it toward chaos. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Think about that carefully. If your thoughts determine your happiness, then what or who influences your thoughts more than anything else? It is the people you surround yourself with. Their words, their actions, their habits, all of it rubs off on you. The way they see the world eventually shapes the way you see the world. So let me ask you, how can your thoughts remain disciplined, pure, and virtuous when every conversation drags you back into gossip, drama, and negativity? How can your mind grow sharper if your so-called friends mock your ambition, dismiss your discipline, or laugh at your pursuit of greatness? How can your peace survive when the ones closest to you constantly plant seeds of doubt? The Stoics were clear. External events are not under our control. But what is under our control? Our boundaries, who we allow into our circle, who we give permission to influence our lives. And here is the mistake most people make. They think boundaries are rude. They think cutting people off is cruel. But in reality, failing to guard your boundaries is not kindness. It is self-destruction. Let's go deeper. Toxicity is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, subtle, hidden. Some toxic people disguise their poison as help. They will criticize you endlessly, but frame it as concern. "I'm only telling you this because I care," they'll say. But listen closely. True care empowers. It strengthens. It builds you up. False care disguised as criticism, it weakens. It chips away at your confidence. And the more you tolerate it, the more you start to believe it. Others hide their poison behind humor. They constantly make jokes at your expense. They laugh while insulting you. And you laugh along because you don't want to be the one who takes things too seriously. But deep down, you know it cuts. You know it plants doubt. Every sarcastic comment is not just a joke. It's a knife disguised as laughter. Then there are the eternal victims. Every day there's a new story, a new drama, a new tragedy about how the world has treated them unfairly. And because you're compassionate, you listen, you comfort, you carry their burdens. But soon, you realize this never ends. They don't want solutions. They don't want growth. They want your energy. They feed on your attention. And when you step back, you see the truth. They are not unlucky. They are addicted to being victims. But perhaps the most dangerous, toxic people of all are the envious ones. The ones who smile when you struggle, but grow cold when you succeed. They are silent when you share good news. They look away when you rise. They are not proud of you. They are threatened by you, and you can feel it. Something in your gut tells you their support is not real. And if you keep them around, you will always shrink yourself to make them feel comfortable. So why do we tolerate these people? Why do we keep them in our lives even when we recognize they're poison? The answer is simple. Fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of confrontation. Fear of judgment. Fear of what others will think if we distance ourselves. But remember this, a Stoic is not ruled by fear. A Stoic does not allow fear of loneliness to chain him to destruction. Epictetus was clear. Keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Read that again. Only with people who uplift you, not with people who are convenient, not with people who entertain you, not with people who make you comfortable, only with people who uplift you. That means, by default, you must let go of the rest. You must walk away from the ones who drain, the ones who sabotage, the ones who poison. You must let them go, not with anger, not with revenge, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Because holding on to them is like holding on to a burning coal. You don't prove strength by enduring the burn. You prove strength by letting it go. Cutting off toxic people is not about cruelty. It's about self-preservation. It's about protecting your mind, your focus, your mission. It's about remembering that you cannot fight battles, achieve greatness, or walk the Stoic path if you are constantly being pulled into storms that are not your own. And here's the truth you need to understand. You do not have to explain. You do not have to argue. You do not have to prove to them why they are toxic. You don't need closure. You don't need to wait until they understand. You simply decide. You quietly step back. You reclaim your energy and you move forward. Because at the end of the day, your life is your responsibility, not theirs. Let us go deeper. Because recognizing toxic relationships is not enough. You must dissect how they infiltrate, how they entangle, and how they weaken the core of who you are. Think of your life as a fortress. The Stoics often use this imagery, a citadel, a stronghold, guarded not by walls of stone, but by walls of virtue, discipline, and clarity. Inside this fortress lives your peace, your strength, your vision. But fortresses are not always breached by siege engines or armies. Sometimes they are breached by whispers, by spies, by those you invited in, those you trusted to guard the gates. This is exactly how toxic relationships work. They don't come crashing through the gates screaming war. No, they slip in quietly. They wear the disguise of friendship, of romance, of loyalty. And once inside, they slowly begin dismantling your defenses from within. Let's talk about how this shows up in the modern world. 1. The energy thieves. You know them. Every interaction with them leaves you drained. It doesn't matter if it's a phone call, a coffee meeting, or a casual message. They never bring you energy. They never leave you stronger. They always leave you weaker. Like thieves in the night, they rob you, not of money, not of possessions, but of vitality, focus, and joy. These people survive on your attention. And the tragic truth is, the more attention you give them, the weaker you become. You spend your day thinking about their drama, replaying their words, analyzing their moods. They dominate your mental real estate while your own goals, your own dreams, your own vision are left abandoned. Seneca warned us, associate with people who are likely to improve you. But what do energy thieves do? They associate with you not to improve you, but to consume you. 2. The masters of subtle manipulation. Some toxic relationships are not obvious. These people are intelligent. They know how to mask their intent. They don't openly insult you. They don't attack your choices directly. Instead, they weave webs of subtle manipulation. They'll say, "Are you sure you can handle that?" Or, "You've changed. You're not the same anymore." Or, "I don't think that's realistic for you." Notice the pattern. They plant doubt. They want you to second-guess yourself. They want you to shrink back into the smaller version of yourself that makes them comfortable. And if you aren't vigilant, their whispers become your inner voice. Epictetus reminded us, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Manipulators do the opposite. They call forth your weakness. 3. The chaos bringers. Then there are those who thrive on disorder. They cannot live in peace, so they drag you into their storms. Their lives are constant cycles of conflict, family drama, relationship issues, financial crises, endless arguments. And at first, you might think you're being compassionate by being there for them. But over time, you realize this is their pattern. They don't want peace, they want chaos, because chaos gives them attention. And if you allow yourself to be tied to them, you will drown in storms that were never meant for you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But when you attach yourself to a chaos bringer, you surrender that power. You let their outside events dictate your inner state. 4. The envious shadows. The most dangerous toxic relationships are built on envy. You can feel it. You share a victory, and they grow silent. You mention progress, and they change the subject. You shine, and they retreat into coldness. They do not clap for you. They do not celebrate you. Why? Because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Your light reveals their shadows. But here is the truth. You cannot dim your light to make others comfortable. You cannot shrink your vision so their insecurity is not triggered. The Stoic path is a path of growth, and growth will always expose who cannot walk with you. Seneca once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay. But the greatest remedy for envy is distance." When you see envy in the eyes of those you call friends, understand it will never turn into loyalty. It will never transform into celebration. It will eventually turn into betrayal. Now, you might be wondering, why is it so hard to cut these people off? Why do we keep holding on even when we recognize the poison? The answer is deeply human, because toxic people often come wrapped in familiarity. They might be family, they might be longtime friends, they might even be lovers. And we confuse history with destiny. We think, "I've known them for so long, I can't just walk away." But understand this, time does not equal loyalty. Time does not equal alignment. A person can be in your life for 10 years and still not deserve the next 10 minutes of it. The Stoics would remind us, every day is a new life. Every moment is rebirth, which means you are under no obligation to repeat yesterday's mistakes. You are not bound to keep company that poisons you simply because you've always done so. Cutting off toxic relationships requires courage, yes. But more importantly, it requires clarity. Clarity that your mission, your peace, your growth, your virtue are too important to sacrifice on the altar of comfort. You must ask yourself, who do I want to become? And then, who is helping me become that person? And who is preventing it? The answer will tell you who belongs in your circle and who belongs outside the gates. And when you realize this truth, you must act. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because every day you delay, you trade a piece of your soul for their poison. Now let us strip away the illusions. Toxic relationships are not just uncomfortable, they are deadly to the soul. They corrode discipline, erode clarity, and suffocate virtue. The Stoics believe that a man's greatest wealth is not gold, not land, not titles. It is inner peace. And when you allow a toxic person access to your mind, you hand them the keys to this treasure. You let them wander freely in your sanctuary, and every word they speak, every action they take is like smoke filling your temple, choking the flame of your spirit. The poison of attachment. Why is it so hard to walk away? Because attachment is addictive. You grow accustomed to their presence even when it hurts. Like a man who drinks poisoned wine night after night, the bitterness burns, yet he craves it. This is what Epictetus warned us about. When someone irritates you, know that it is your own judgment that has irritated you. Meaning, you are the one who allows their poison into your bloodstream. You are the one who clings to their shadow instead of stepping into your own light. Attachment convinces you that without them, you are incomplete. But let me tell you a truth the world rarely speaks. You do not need anyone who poisons your soul. Your completeness comes from virtue, not from validation, from discipline, not from dependency. The silent saboteurs. Some toxic people don't shout, don't fight, don't insult. They sabotage silently. They roll their eyes when you speak. They laugh when you share your goals. They stay silent when you need encouragement. Do you see how dangerous this is? They pretend to walk with you, yet their very silence chips away at your confidence. They don't stop you directly. They let you destroy yourself with doubt. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But what if those thoughts are constantly tainted by subtle sabotage? Over time, you will believe the lie that you are less, that you are weak, that you are incapable. And that lie, once planted, becomes your prison. The illusion of obligation. Many remain trapped in toxic relationships because of obligation. Their family. They've been my friends since childhood. They were there for me once, so I owe them. But hear me clearly. Loyalty to poison is not virtue. You do not owe your suffering to anyone. You do not owe your peace to anyone. Virtue demands courage. The courage to recognize that some ties must be cut, no matter how deep their roots. Seneca once wrote, "Associate with people who may make you better." He did not add, "unless they are family or unless you've known them for years." Number, the rule is universal. If someone makes you worse, if someone diminishes your character, they do not deserve access to your inner circle. Period. The mirror test. Here is a practice, one I call the Stoic mirror. Stand before the mirror of your life and ask, who do I become when I'm with this person? Am I wiser, calmer, stronger? Or am I smaller, angrier, weaker? Do I leave their presence with peace or with poison? The answers will not lie. If you are honest, the reflection will reveal the truth you've been afraid to face. And once you see it, there is no going back, because the soul cannot unsee its chains. The fear of loneliness. One of the greatest weapons of toxic relationships is fear. Fear that if you leave, you will be alone, that the silence will crush you, that solitude will become unbearable. But let me flip this truth for you. Loneliness is not the enemy. It is the training ground of the Stoic warrior. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote his meditations alone in the quiet, far from the comfort of applause. Epictetus lived in poverty, exiled, stripped of everything, yet he found freedom in solitude. The real enemy is not loneliness, it is noise, the endless chatter of those who drain you, the constant pull of those who chain you. Once you embrace solitude, you will realize you were never missing people. You were missing yourself. The courage of cutting off. To cut off is not to hate. To cut off is not to seek revenge. To cut off is an act of self-preservation. It is an act of clarity. It is saying, I will not allow poison to dictate my destiny. And yes, it will hurt. Your heart will ache. Your mind will question. But understand, pain is temporary. Clarity is eternal. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. When you cut people off, some will call you cold, selfish, cruel. Let them. You are not here to be understood by the masses. You are here to guard the fortress of your soul. A visualization, close your eyes. Imagine standing in the middle of a battlefield. Around you are people holding chains. Each chain is tied to your wrist, your ankle, your neck. Every chain represents a toxic tie. The manipulator, the energy thief, the envious friend, the chaos bringer. And there you stand, unable to move, unable to breathe, shackled by their weight. Now imagine raising a sword. The sword is clarity. The sword is courage. The sword is virtue. With every swing, you cut a chain. One by one, they fall away. The manipulators lose their grip. The energy thieves vanish into the shadows. The envious ones dissolve in their own bitterness. And finally, you stand unchained, free. The battlefield is empty, but your soul is alive. That silence, that solitude, that is not loneliness. That is victory. This is what it means to cut off toxic people. Not as an act of cruelty, but as an act of liberation. Not because you hate them, but because you love yourself enough to protect your destiny. Remember, every relationship is either a chain or a key. Some people lock you into smallness. Others unlock your greatness. Your task is simple. Cut the chains, keep the keys. There is a certain kind of person you will encounter in life who doesn't walk into the room bringing warmth or energy. Instead, they suck the life out of it. You know this feeling. You sit with them for an hour, and by the end of the conversation, you feel as if a weight has been strapped onto your chest, as if your optimism has been drained, as if your spirit has been dimmed. These people don't always appear dangerous in obvious ways. They may not be physically harmful. They may not even openly insult you. Yet, through their constant negativity, their endless complaining, their refusal to rise above their problems, they leech away your strength. The Stoics would call this a corruption of the soul by association. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If your mind is filled with destructive thoughts, then your life will inevitably feel destructive. And if you spend enough time with those who feed on complaining, despair, and bitterness, their poison begins to seep into your bloodstream. Picture this. You're trying to climb a mountain. Every step takes energy. Every breath is a struggle. And then, without you realizing it, someone latches onto your back, weighing you down. They don't help you climb. They don't encourage you. They just hang there, feeding off your strength, leaving you gasping for air. That is what it feels like to carry an emotional vampire with you in life. Now, here is the harsh truth. Some people prefer being stuck in misery because misery gives them identity. Complaining becomes their language, negativity becomes their personality, and drama becomes their oxygen. And when you refuse to feed into their complaints, when you refuse to join their self-pity, they grow uncomfortable. Why? Because your silence threatens their cycle. Your peace shows them a mirror they are unwilling to look into. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." That is not a casual suggestion. It is a command for those who want to live with clarity and strength. If someone is draining you, if every encounter with them leaves you worse than before, then you are violating Seneca's command. You are allowing poison into your system. Think about how precious your mental clarity is. The Stoics believe that your mind is your fortress, your inner citadel. Inside that fortress is where your freedom, your wisdom, and your peace reside. But imagine leaving the gates wide open so anyone can walk in and dump their garbage inside your fortress. That is exactly what happens when you let emotional vampires dominate your attention. You must learn to set boundaries. And let me be clear, boundaries are not cruelty. Boundaries are clarity. When you tell someone, "I cannot spend hours listening to constant negativity," you're not rejecting them as a human being. You're rejecting the behavior that corrodes your spirit. And in doing so, you protect both yourself and them. Because enabling negativity only strengthens its grip. By walking away, you force the other person to face their own shadows. There's a reason Epictetus told his students, "If you spend your time in the company of those who groan, you will groan with them. Instead, choose those who are cheerful." It wasn't just advice, it was survival. Emotional states are contagious. Just like fire spreads from one torch to another, despair spreads from one mind to another. And if you are not careful, you may find yourself becoming the very thing you wanted to avoid. Let's bring this to modern life. Maybe it's that friend who always calls you, not to share good news, not to ask how you're doing, but to unload complaint after complaint. Maybe it's that colleague who never has a positive word about work, but always finds new ways to magnify the flaws. Or maybe it's a family member who thrives on conflict, who never feels alive unless they are stirring up drama. These are the emotional vampires. And what do you do when you encounter them? The Stoic answer is not to argue, not to scream, not to fight. Instead, it is to calmly withdraw your energy, to treat your time and attention like sacred currency. Would you hand out all your savings to someone who only wastes it? Of course not. So why hand out your peace of mind to someone who only squanders it? You must recognize this. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not everyone deserves a seat at your inner table. And when you deny access to those who drain you, you are not being selfish. You are being disciplined. You are honoring the Stoic principle of protecting the only thing you truly control, your mind. Now, does this mean you cut off every person who has a bad day? Number, Stoicism is not about cruelty, it's about balance. We are called to compassion, but also to discernment. Helping someone in genuine distress is noble, but enabling someone who chooses to stay in misery, who refuses to rise is foolish. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot force another person to change, but you can choose not to be dragged down with them. Here's your challenge. The next time you feel drained after interacting with someone, pause and reflect. Was that conversation life-giving or life-taking? Did it leave you closer to clarity, or did it pull you deeper into fog? The answer will tell you whether you're in the presence of an emotional vampire. And once you recognize it, you have two choices. Either build a boundary or sever the tie completely. Both require courage. But remember, courage is a Stoic virtue, the courage to protect your peace, the courage to say no, the courage to walk away. When you stop feeding the emotional vampire, you reclaim your strength. And in that moment, something powerful happens. The weight is lifted, your steps become lighter, and suddenly the climb feels possible again. So guard your energy, guard your inner citadel, and never forget, your peace is priceless. There are people who twist every word, guilt trip you into submission, and wear masks of kindness to control you. Seneca warned, "A sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand." Their weapon is not steel but words. Your defense? Detach, refuse to play the game. Boundaries are your shield. Some smile in front of you but secretly despise your progress. They cannot celebrate your victories because your success mirrors their failures. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." Let them think what they will. Your path is upward. Don't look back at those who hope you stumble. These people cannot breathe without chaos. Peace suffocates them. Conflict excites them. But you are not required to join their play. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the rock against which the waves break. Refuse to be moved. Let their storms crash while you remain calm, grounded, immovable. They speak only of themselves, their pain, their desires. They rarely ask about you, and if they do, it is only to redirect the spotlight back onto themselves." A relationship without reciprocity is not balance. It is slavery. Walk away, for your life is too precious to waste orbiting around someone else's ego. Beware those who wear victimhood as armor. They do not want solutions. They want pity, and pity chains you to their weakness. Seneca said, "We are more often frightened than hurt." Do not let another's chosen helplessness make you helpless too. Offer help once, but do not drown saving someone who refuses to swim. Toxic people will not like your silence. They will resist your distance. But remember, your duty is not to be liked. It is to be free. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Cutting ties is not cruelty. It is clarity. And clarity is the birthplace of peace.